These are images no one was supposed to see. That helicopter is taking Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina out of Bangladesh in the wake of a revolution. Student-led protests and the violence against them led to the collapse of her authoritarian government. Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus heads the interim government alongside student representatives and supported by the army. They were not elected, but promised to change the system that failed democracy and build something new.
I'm Binish Javed. I'm here in Dhaka to look at how Bangladesh can move towards democracy. I'm talking to academics, lawyers, and advisor to the new government. Together, we will examine what needs to be done to create accountability in the political system and in the economy. But before anything else, there is a desperate need to restore justice, law, and order that people can trust.
Security forces killed more than 1,000 people during the uprising. More than 30,000 people were injured. People like these are getting help for rehabilitation from a foundation set up by the new government. Money is also being paid to families of the dead.
But getting justice is going to be more complicated. Bangladesh has many law enforcement agencies. They were politicized during Sheikh Hasina's rule, corrupted by it. Enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings, and surveillance were common. Sheikh Hasina's government said that they crushed militancy and Islamists, but critics say they also squashed dissent and opposition without any democratic oversight.
আমরা দেখেছি এই অভ্যুত্থানে আমাদের নিরাপত্তা বাহিনী কিভাবে জনগণের বিপক্ষে দাঁড়িয়েছে। তারা নির্বিচারে গুলি চালিয়েছে, হেলিকপ্টার থেকে এসে হেলিকপ্টার দিয়ে গুলি চালিয়েছে। এখন ফলত এই একই পুলিশকে নিয়ে কিন্তু আমাদের আসলে কাজ করতে হচ্ছে। আসলে এই পুলিশ বাহিনীর রিফরমেশন ছাড়া এবং সিকিউরিটি ফোর্সের আইনগত নীতিগত সংস্কার ছাড়া কিন্তু আমরা গণতান্ত্রিক রাষ্ট্র আসলে নির্মাণ করা সম্ভব।
Unless we see real accountability, we see some people being held to account, not only for those who fired upon people like this and took their lives, but also those who directed or controlled or planned or coordinated these operations. Unless we see that happening, I think as a nation, there will be real challenges for us moving forward into a democratic future.
So it was not just the one person who fired the bullet. It was a chain of command in the entire state machinery, and that leads all the way up to the former prime minister. So I believe the way to think about going about rebuilding democracy in Bangladesh is that we need to have some form of accountability of what happened. It should not be swept under the rug.
The new government says it is starting to make progress.
আমাদের স্টুডেন্টদের পক্ষ থেকে এবং সরকারের পক্ষ থেকে লিগ্যাল টিম গঠন করা হয়েছে এবং এই মামলাগুলো আসলে স্পেশাল ট্রাইব্যুনালে এই মামলাগুলো নিয়ে যেতে হবে, সকল মামলা। তো সেই লিগ্যাল টিম এখন শহীদ পরিবারদের নিয়ে কাজ করছে এবং আমরাও আহ্বান জানিয়েছি যাতে মামলাগুলো তারা স্পেশাল ট্রাইব্যুনালে নিয়ে যায়।
But that tribunal is accused of having been co-opted by Hasina's government for political gains. The entire judiciary, even up to the Supreme Court, is considered to have been significantly compromised. The interim government has invited a UN fact-finding mission to investigate potential human rights violations during the revolution.
We have to follow the international standards. That's why we amended our International Crime Tribunal Act and trying to have United Nations involved in the process. That's why the process is a bit delayed, but still we must provide quality international standard justice to the people.
What I think they really need is they need a Justice for July Commission. They need a very high-level body whose entire and sole purpose is to look at the issues around justice and accountability for July.
We need to think about how do we rebuild these forces, and some of that might mean recruitment of new people, retraining, various forms of measures of accountability and monitoring being in place.
Bangladeshis need to trust that this violence against protesters will be the last of its kind. This is Bangladesh's national parliament. Politics here has been dominated by Sheikh Hasina's Awami League for the last 15 years. Hasina used her huge majorities in parliament to make amendments to the constitution. These changes helped to turn Bangladesh into practically a one-party state. The main opposition, Bangladesh Nationalist Party, did not close, but many of its leaders were jailed, and thousands of its members faced what they said were politically motivated criminal charges.
This crisis was caused partly, the background to it was the creation of this, trying to establish an understanding that there was no legitimate, political voice in the country other than one. One party and its allies, and everybody else, because they had different views, were illegitimate somehow.
Hasina undermined opposition parties' credibility by calling them terrorists.
I have to prove credibility, right? To whom? To whom? A terrorist party? A terrorist organization? No. I have my accountability to people, to the people.
Key to creating a counterweight to prime ministerial power so expanded and abused by Hasina is the Election Commission. This is the body responsible for Bangladeshi elections. It has the power to ban a party from running or disqualify candidates, and it has authority over all officials, including law enforcement, involved in the election process. Sheikh Hasina appointed friendly people to head the Election Commission when she was in power, wrecking its reputation for impartiality.
The Election Commission should not be accountable to the executive branch, really. I mean, we could thinking about making the Election Commission maybe report to a parliamentary body. The key thing here is that the Election Commission in Bangladesh needs to be absolutely independent.
The interim government says it is planning changes and has appointed this man to carry them out.
We are going to reform the process of appointing the election commissioners, and hopefully that will lead to appointment of honest and the people with backbone, and people who are committed to people's welfare rather than welfare of their appointing authority.
Elections were long held under a caretaker government which would step in when the ruling government's term was over. This was supposed to ensure neutrality.
In the past, when we have had elections under caretaker governments, and that is when we have been able to see peaceful transfers of power happening, we've not seen it happen in the last 15 years with the political government in office.
We are hoping that caretaker, some sort of a neutral government during the election will come back so that the elections are held in a free and fair manner.
It's not just the Election Commission which will need to reform. The Bangladeshi people expect the interim government to build robust systems to guard against consolidation of power. They want a system where no government can take control of other state institutions that are supposed to hold it to account. That change will require a massive process of wide-ranging political reforms.
Hasina modified and amended the constitution in a way that her opponents said enabled her to control powerful institutions.
Consolidation of power in the person of the Prime Minister, for example, which is seen as one of the, again, root causes of the recent uprising and changes, where the Prime Minister holds the position of leader of the party, leader of parliament, and also leader of government, and of course also the defense forces.
Unprecedented power was exactly why it is called a fascist authoritarian regime. And very much a dictator, even though it called itself a democracy. What we need to do is think about the extent of power of the Prime Minister, and in terms of having some oversight over that, and restructuring the presidency. What is the role of the president? What is the role of the Prime Minister? The role of the military in all of this?
The government says it has ideas to anchor changes to spread out power in the constitution.
আমাদের সংবিধানের যেই ধারাগুলো রয়েছে এবং যে কাঠামো যেটা একটা ব্যক্তিকেই অনেক বেশি এম্পাওয়ার করে, সেই ধারাগুলো নিয়ে অনেকদিন ধরে সমালোচনা রয়েছে। এই অন্তর্বর্তীকালীন সরকারের পক্ষ থেকে সংবিধানকে পরিবর্তনের জন্য একটি কমিশন করা হয়েছে, যেটি অন্যান্য সকল রাজনৈতিক দলের সাথে আলোচনা করে, জনগণের সকল অংশের সাথে আলোচনা করে একটি সংস্কার প্রস্তাবনা তারা প্রস্তুত করবে।
The overall aim is to make it impossible for another leader to take so much power that there is no way to legally remove them. Like the traffic in Dhaka, Bangladesh's economy is at a standstill. Crucial textile exports were badly hit when the pandemic disrupted global demand. And Russia's invasion of Ukraine pushed up prices of imported energy and food, depleting foreign exchange reserves. But Bangladesh also has problems of its own.
Widespread corruption, extortion of money, and capital flight from Bangladesh. These were the three most dangerous problems faced by the Bangladesh economy. That's why you have this problem of reduced foreign exchange, reserve of the country, and a spiraling increase in the price of dollar, which has brought the inflationary pressures on the economy, and also the depreciation of our currency taka by about more than 40% depreciation in about 2 years.
All these things impact everyday prices. Inflation hits everyone, with prices of things like eggs and rice rising fast. And the corruption scandals reduce people's faith that the economy is being run fairly. It was the students who saw all of this and worried about their future, they started the protest movement. The interim government is under pressure to create stability and economic justice.
যে সম্পদ যদি কিছু ব্যক্তির কাছে কুক্ষিগত হয়ে থাকে, কিছু সিন্ডিকেট, কিছু পরিবারের কাছেই তার নিয়ন্ত্রণ থাকে, তাহলে জনগণের প্রকৃত সুফল পাবে না। ফলে এইখানেও গণতন্ত্রায়ন প্রয়োজন এবং এই সিন্ডিকেটগুলা, এই মনোপলিগুলো আমাদের ভাঙতে হবে। পাশাপাশি আমরা অনেক বেশি কর্মসংস্থানের চেষ্টা করছি, প্রাইভেট সেক্টরকে আমরা উৎসাহিত করছি যাতে বাংলাদেশে তারা ইনভেস্টমেন্ট করে এবং বাংলাদেশে নতুন নতুন উদ্যোক্তা এবং ব্যবসায়ের ক্ষেত্র তৈরি করার চেষ্টা আমরা করছি, যাতে আমরা অনেক বেশি কর্মসংস্থান এখানে তৈরি করতে।
Interim leader Mohammad Yunus is appealing to international financial bodies for assistance to stabilize the economy. The interim government has appointed a new governor of the central bank, Dr. Ehsan Mansoor. His job to stabilize the country's financial system.
He is trying to stop the fall in the foreign exchange reserve of Bangladesh. He is trying to stabilize the price of dollar in the market. He is trying to shore up the remittances sent by Bangladeshi immigrants from different foreign countries. He is trying to increase the export earning of Bangladesh, and the government has reduced tariffs and taxes on some imported goods to bring down the prices of those basic necessities in the local market, and they are also trying to bring back some money taken away from the country in the form of capital flight.
Workers are also expecting improvements from the new regime.
Labor is still considerably cheap and it is exploited, so we do need to make sure the workers' rights are ensured. So if we think about the social safety nets and who's at the bottom and hold them up, then that is the way the country can flourish economically. That is how democracy will thrive, and that is how we will have justice in the end.
The needs of ordinary Bangladeshis may have a central place in the plans of the new government, but they are working within the global economy, which has its own priorities.
Bangladesh today feels hopeful. Everyone you speak to is excited about the future. It feels like young people are pushing the country towards democracy. It's their blood and their deaths on the streets that shook a system that seemed unshakable.
বাংলাদেশের আগের সংস্কৃতি ফিরে আসার জন্য কিন্তু এতগুলো মানুষ জীবন দেয়নি। ফলে এই তরুণদের যে আকাঙ্ক্ষা, তাদের যে ভিশন, সে অনুযায়ী আমরা সামনের বাংলাদেশটা গঠন করতে চাই, সেই স্বপ্নটা দেখতে চাই। ফলে আমাদের তরুণদের ভিতরে যে আস্থা, ঐক্য এবং জনগণের ও দেশের প্রতি যে দরদ এবং দায়িত্ব আমরা অনুভব করেছি, সেই জায়গাটা যাতে বহাল থাকে এবং আমরা যাতে সেই সততা এবং নিষ্ঠার সাথে দেশের জন্য কাজ করতে পারি।
But the interim government has its work cut out. It must overcome the resistance which surely still lurks within Bangladesh institutions. It must retain the support of the people. Democratic reform will likely be complicated and lengthy.
This whole fight, the whole struggle is about people's franchise. I mean, they want their voting right back. And the government should make sure, the interim government should make sure that in 1 year's time maybe, Bangladeshi people have this genuine right and freedom to vote for their preferred candidates.
Perhaps the biggest challenge will be to persuade the Bangladeshis to keep that hope and faith in the long run.